Hello, this is a video about note reading in the guitar. My hope is that this film will shed some light on some of the issues that are causing difficulty for most guitarists, specifically how our choice of learning materials influence our ability to read notes. Later in the film, I will introduce the book Introduction to Note Reading for Guitarists, a workbook that uses phonics principles and progressive flashcard techniques to teach guitarists how to read. Let's bring ourselves back to first grade. You are in the classroom with all of the other kids. You look around and you see the letters of the alphabet hanging on the wall. Your teacher takes you through each letter, perhaps spending an entire lesson on one letter. You paired the letter with a sound. Once you knew all the sounds, you began pairing sounds. And eventually you created 3-letter words. This led to compound words and short sentences. You were given assignments and homework that drove in this new material. This type of learning is a cornerstone of phonics. It's known as the explicit, or the direct teaching model. The idea is that we begin with parts and piece things together to create larger chunks. Implicit learning is another strategy. If you were to just casually pick up a book and start reading, anything that you gained from that process would be known as implicit. Here we begin with large chunks or something in its entirety, and we pull it apart to see how it works. The English alphabet has 26 letters. The Norwegian alphabet has 29. So my question is, how many symbols does the basic guitar lexicon include? 40 or 50? If you were to consider just the notes in first position, the basic rhythms, and sound variations, you would have roughly 85 symbols or instructions, give or take a few. If you were to create a note reading program for the guitar, a guitar phonics if you will, you need to establish an alphabet. Since there is no official guitar alphabet, we should create some set of rules that qualify a symbol or instruction as a letter in this alphabet. What I propose is this. A symbol needs to represent a core idea. That idea cannot be broken down any further. The symbol requires explanation. What that means is that the student can't figure it out on their own. They need to point to the score and say, what does that mean? The symbol is something that can be produced on the guitar. The alphabet has 26 letters, and it's divided into vowels and consonants. Can we take the 85 symbols of the guitar lexicon and divide them into categories? Yes, we can. Music is made up of 4 elements: melody, harmony, rhythm, and sound variation. These 4 elements work in symbiosis to bring music to life. A genius stroke of music notation is that you can see the music as a sum of all of its parts while being able to discern each of the elements individually. This is done through use of a symbol, an alteration to a symbol, an instruction, or orientation. If you'd like to dig deeper into the subject, I recommend the book Guidelines to Style Analysis by Jan Leroux. The symbols highlighted in green represent the template symbols, the symbols that show up by default in compositions. The blue highlight represents the symbols found in the basic melodic and harmonic lexicons. The orange highlight represents the symbols and indications found in the rhythm lexicon, and the yellow highlight represents instructions found in the sound variation lexicon. We have smaller categories within each lexicon. Template symbols are represented by notation elements and fingerings. The melody and harmony lexicons are categorized by notes, note names, and accidentals. The rhythm lexicon is divided into tempo, time signature, notes or rests, and alterations. And finally, the sound variation lexicon is represented by dynamics, timbre, and extended techniques. It is important we take into account the large processing challenges we face learning the guitar while learning a whole new written language. We are asking ourselves a lot, especially when the end goal is for all of this to sound musical and effortless. When we learn songs in a beginner method book, they often look like this. I can count about 22 different symbols in use. Some of the symbols will be in our mental foreground, while some others disappear into the landscape. An experienced teacher knows how to guide students through this maze. Even so, most students will quit reading and start memorizing. This compensation will likely follow them throughout their playing career. By the way, look at some of the important sound and rhythm symbols not even mentioned in this score. It is important to highlight the difference between how we are taught and the materials we use to teach. Teaching styles usually have a healthy balance between explicit and implicit techniques. Teachers often create simple technical exercises that can be a platform for something more difficult. Teachers also demonstrate how to break things down, taking big pieces of music and breaking them up into manageable parts. Now, how about our teaching materials? Explicit materials exist, but they are not geared towards any one instrument. Teachers can use flashcards for notes and create clapping games and word games for rhythm. Some schools offer solfege, ear training, dictation, eurythmics, and other methods. Personally, I attended the Paris Conservatory, and the French system incorporates musical formation training from the beginning up into the very highest level. These classes included solfege, melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic dictation, sight reading, and sight singing. As for implicit teaching materials, these are the ones that we use most often. They are the exercises we find in method books and the pieces we play. Most students have an overemphasis of implicit materials, and by doing so, the process of learning how to read notes often becomes overwhelming. Could you imagine reading a ton of books just to discover the alphabet that was being used? We need to acknowledge that the guitar alphabet is over 3 times the size of the standard alphabet. We need to take a giant step back, create a framework, introduce each of the symbols, and see how they work together. We need to create short-term goals and assess for speed, precision, and accuracy. As you can imagine, early reading studies vastly outnumber the studies conducted on note reading. The consensus is that we need to produce a balance in our approach when it comes to learning a written language. The National Reading Panel saw that systematic phonics instruction produces significant benefits for basically all ages in children, and this also includes adults. This was a huge study based from the results of over 1,000 independent studies. Introduction to Note Reading for Guitarists teaches you how to read notes. It is 68 pages in length, with 5 to 12 progressive exercises in each chapter. It was created around the alphabet that guitarists use. On the surface, the book is made up of musical flashcards, but underlying all that is an organization and steady progression that can be assessed every step of the way. Every exercise needs to meet certain criteria before we move on to the next exercise. The goal of this book is to generate more speed and precision with your note reading. We gradually broaden our field of vision to include more symbols and instructions. And by the way, this book can accompany almost any guitar method without it getting in the way. You can purchase this book at productionsdoes.com. It is available as a spiral-bound edition or as a PDF. I will create an online class that will demonstrate how I have used these materials over the last 10 years. We will be able to discuss note reading challenges with your students, and I will give more tips on how to use this book and share some of the materials I use to support this book. If you'd like to receive more information or sign up, you do that on my website, www.randallavers.com. In conclusion, what does it mean to be a fluent note reader? We should aspire to achieve the same fluency goals as we do with our everyday reading, to see the story unfold in real time. We do not want to question our ability to decode and read. We want to have a direct connection between what is on the page and how we react to that. Thank you for watching.